Boom.
Hello!
Good morning. I think now we can justify that
Cafecito.
Cafecito is good for you.
It's real. Like
No-
there is caffeine on the
Yes.
table.
So today we have double duty.
We're so excited. This is like a double feature when you're a kid. I don't know. That was one of the biggest bonuses or if you were like kind of, risky, you'd sneak into the other like showing after your movie. So we have Marcy as our morning treat.
Yes. But before we start, you can see how exciting we are. Before we start, if this is the first time that you tune into us, we are Cafecito for Two. And we are the co-authors of Boundless Love, Healing Your Marriage Before It Begins.
Our Bambino.
Our Bambini. And thanks to that, we decided to open a nonprofit ministry where our mission and our purpose is to bring God in the center of your relation, either you're single or you're married. And we also create powerful marriages out there
Yes.
with our faith. So we decided to do this Cafecito for Two. We decided to bring guests that lift us up, that share their spiritual resilience during this strange and difficult times. And today, now we can talk about.
Now I'm all like I
Great.
kind of went crazy with my enthusiasm. But we have Marcy here, Marcy Pusey, who's an amazing author, missionary mom, wife extraordinaire, and she's going to introduce herself. But we're just so thankful too because we have a special place in our heart for Marcy because she really coached and supported us.
Yes.
In producing. I think this is is this our third child? Or do we put the dog as our fourth child? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think we should put it as the
Separate?
the most expensive child.
No, that the jury's out on that for sure.
We have to wait. We have to wait and
Till
take
college.
it. Yes, but one thing I just want to share that being coached by Marcy can really create beautiful effects, and I think we are a product of that. So, with further ado, I'm gonna bring Marcy up and have
And she's from Germany, y'all. That's why we're doing it early because she's on a different time zone.
That's right. So we're international. We were.
Woo! Oh, that's right.
We were in Thailand, and now we're in Germany. So.
What?
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. You're
Marcy
cracking
and
up.
all her cuteness, everyone.
Yes.
It's a fact. So Marcy, did you ever realize how much of an impact you made on us in our writing process? We just need to acknowledge, honor, and appreciate you right now because you were such a great coach, mentor, and cheerleader. And I also want to thank you too because I invited you and you were all, I'm there. And you were just so on it. So thank you so much because it's like such a thrill. And we know we have lots of folks that are interested in meeting you today via the show because they themselves are foster parents. Believe it or not.
That's right. And another amazing compliment that I want to give you, I think it's an amazing compliment, is I think you were the first one that had faith in us.
Yeah.
Before we have faith in ourselves, right? Because we were like really doubting what we got ourselves into. And you were like, "Hey, yeah, you got this. Yeah, everything is gonna be fine." We're like,
You acted like it was really normal when it wasn't. So
I'm like, God, she's such a good liar that I even believe myself. And then we happened to, we kind of knew from the first coaching session that she was in the faith as well, and all the great
Yes,
work that
thank
you're
you,
doing.
God.
And then you share with us what we primarily going to talk about today. And we kind of label it a spiritual parenting because you do such a great work, and I think you help a lot of parents that are taking, they're being courageous and being foster parents. I think it's super courageous.
do you want to share with us a little bit about your story, Marcy, and this latest book and kind of where you see folks kind of possibly jumping in on your narrative because it's such a powerful book and story that you have.
I live in this really quiet little German town.
It always works that way.
Always
right?
works that
Yeah.
way. There we go.
Right then, My word. Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And wow, does everyone come on and just get to feel so good? I feel like I could just
Yeah.
float through the rest of the day. That was amazing. So thanks for your feedback and your trust with your journey, because that was a trust. Yeah. So our journey, gosh, where does it begin? Or mine? I went to college to study social services because I took a test in high school that said I should consider being a social worker. And so I did. So that's what I went to school to do in Fresno, California. And while I was there, I learned how great the need is for families to take in foster kids. Like, just there's far more kids than there are homes wanting to take them. And I think it just tucked a seed in my heart. Like, well, what if I could be one home that could take in that group of kids, and then I could be part of a solution that needs to be bigger than me, but that, I can do my part. So we started. I don't know. I think it wasn't even like, oh, now it's time. I think it was more, okay, we know this is a long process to get certified. So what if we just start the process, and then maybe by the time we're done being certified, we'll be ready.
Right. Hey.
And as soon as we were done being certified, I was pregnant with our first child. And so then we were like, this feels like bad timing. But when our son was 3 months old, the foster agency, even though we had said, let's wait, called.
Wow.
and had a kid for us. And so we just thought, okay, yeah, what does it look like to be trusting God in this situation, that he would bring people to us when it's time? And that doesn't mean every kid that's offered is the right kid, but it did slow us down to really be prayerful about it. And so, so we took in our first kid when our son was 3 months old. That boy was 8 at the time. He ended up becoming our forever son. So he's 21 now. And
he's 21 now, Marcy?
Yes, I know.
Wow.
I have a 21-year-old. I would have started young had I birthed him. But yes, I have a 21-year-old. I have a 20-year-old. So our process ended up being son born. He's 3 months old. First foster child comes in. A month later, we get a teen mom. She's 13 with a 3-month-old. So mine is now 4 months old, 8-year-old, 13, and 3 months old. That baby had tremendous amount of needs.
Wow.
Yeah. And then over the span of the next 20 months, we had 2 other little boys, another 13-year-old. I'm going to lose count. Anyway, somewhere in there we had lots of kids. And then our last foster child who came in was actually a student of my husband's at his school. So she'd been his second grade student who moved up with him to third grade. She suddenly needed a place to live, so she moved in with us. And then a month to the date after that, our last daughter was born. So in those 20 months, we got 4 permanent children, plus a handful of kids that came through as foster kids. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
And then I immediately went and had like some surgeries to prevent future children from being born.
You were like, okay, this is not going any further. Got it. Yeah.
Well, and I had miscarried in there too. And I was never trying to birth children or even really adopt them, right? Like we were just sort of being,
just for us lay people, this means you've adopted how many? You had your son, right? Yeah. And then you had 2 of your bio kids, and then 2, right, that you birthed, and then 2 or 3 that you adopted. Is that right?
Kids. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So 21, 20, almost 13, and 11.
Got it. Okay. Wow, that's incredible. And what was the inspiration? How did you? Because I know you've done other work around this. This latest book that you're speaking to is a different kind of twist. It's like really accumulation of all of your knowledge, right? In terms of imparting it. And I, as a fellow social worker and spiritual sister, I just so applaud you, because my very first job out of college was in foster care. I don't know if I shared that with you.
No, I don't that.
Yeah, and then you were in New York City foster care system. So I was working specifically with kids who were HIV infected and had been diagnosed with AIDS at the time, when there wasn't much treatment. So I totally understand sort of some of the challenges, the changing and very complicated landscape of foster care, kinship foster care, the adoption pathway. So I was
Yeah.
curious, like, what inspired you around this specific book?
That's a great question. So if I give a little more context,
Sure.
then I would tell you that, so I did go on to I have my undergrad in social work. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor. Now I'm a certified trauma practitioner. So I've worked in group homes and foster agencies and private practice and wraparound programs.
Wow.
Like, I've been all over the community as far as social services go. I've been involved a lot. And so I have both that clinical professional experience and then the being in the trenches as a mama experience.
Yeah.
So my first book it is called Reclaiming Hope, Overcoming the Challenges of Parenting Foster and Adopted Children. And so it's really the first time, I think, in the literature that I could find anyone really talking honestly about the experience, but with hope, like not just to say it's hard, let's sit in it, but it's like, it's hard, but why are we still doing it? Value in it. So that's the first book. The second book is Parenting Children of Trauma, and I kept saying no to that book. Like, it was on my mind and heart, and I kept saying, nope, not going to write that book because I can't fix the trauma that the kids have experienced, and I can't fix their behavior in the house, and I can't fix what's hard for the families raising those children. And so I felt like, what do I have to offer if I can't just immediately make it better? And so a friend said to me one day, Marcy, nobody reads your books because you solve all their problems. We read your books because you remove shame from people. And as soon as she said that, something shifted in my spirit where I was like, oh, I can write that book. I can write a book that brings understanding to families, to communities, to the social system, so that we can enter that relationship with a different expectation, both for ourselves, which is where the shame gets lifted, but also like what we should expect from the kids. And after that shift, literally, I wrote the book in 4 weeks.
Whoa. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a God thing right there.
100%. Like, I just needed, because he already, like, I felt the prompting to write it, and I just kept saying no. And what's interesting is it's been basically the perennial bestseller. Like, it's in and out of bestseller all the time. It sells fairly regularly, and I followed it up with a book for children. Spur Around the Sweater is a book that follows a foster child through foster care and the adoption process. And I would say, like, the 3 books together just have found their way and sell. But it's not the selling, it's just the fact that, like, it's bigger than me. It's gone beyond me. And so that no that I kept saying, when I finally could say that scary yes, God just took it, right? And he's been expanding it into places that I don't even know.
Wow.
Wow. And talk about really making an impact.
Yes. One question that I had, I mean, is really courageous to see what you're doing and you keep doing, and obviously being a parent, I think everybody relates to that. Being a parent is really hard because we're dealing with a child that, in a way, you want to mold, in a way you want to really become, you want to do all these good things, you want to provide love, but at the same time, we're not perfect, we're all broken. And then a lot of the things from your childhood past, and it happened to me where I have to hear myself talking to my kids, because sometimes I'm like, whoa, what am I doing? What am I saying to my child that I'm going to definitely create I'm going to create an experience that is going to backfire when they get older. But in a way, I'm like, okay, it's my child. I kind of know my child from day one, right? But when you're a foster parent, right, you get in this child and you're like, okay, you don't have any type of blueprint or kind of, okay, all right, you don't know what angle to go to. And at the same time, you're broken as well. And you never know if there's some elements of your kid's behavior that's going to trigger something in you. And at the same time, you're like, okay, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? I'm curious how you deal with that. I mean, I know prayer and having faith and obviously relying on God so He can help you go through it, but how you do it. I mean, I think it's so I think
Admirable.
admirable. I won't be able to do it. To really, you know, look at myself and say, okay, I need to check myself out. How? Well, tell me. I'm so curious. What?
Yeah.
How would you give advice? Because we know we have audience that they have filled their application to be foster
Yeah.
parents, and they're waiting, and you know, due to the pandemic, they're waiting, right? But what was the advice that you can give them?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think going into it, I didn't have as much awareness around it as I do now, which
Yeah.
that's that hindsight 2020 bit, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think because I had worked so much in social services and I was very good at it. I had worked as a behavior analyst and I was great at changing behavior in other people's homes. So there was definitely like an underlying sense of maybe arrogance that was like, oh, we can do this because we have all the tools and like even more than the average person signing up. We've got the toolbox. My husband worked in a low-income school district. Most of his kids were in single-parent homes or foster homes. So we just felt super equipped. So I don't even think I really paused to think about the things you're asking because I just felt capable, right? What I learned is that I was not capable. Like you said, I had all of the stuff. I brought all this stuff to it. I've learned a lot, even just this year, about my own leanings towards codependency, and I'm having to really like sit in that and reevaluate my motives for everything. I've learned I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, which is like helper, helper, helper till you burn out. So imagine what that looks like raising kids, right?
Yeah,
so,
big time.
I think I just went into it like I've got the tools. I'm going to be like their mom / behavior analyst, and I'm going to love them to healing. Like that's the idea, right? That God's love is unconditional, and it's all I need is to be the channel. Like he's just going to channel it and fix them, and then I'll like rescue these kids and feel just really good about us. And that's not what happened at all. Like my older kids are on their own journey. On a kind of journey I never ever would have wished for them or dreamed for them or wanted for them, a path that we thought we were rescuing them from, right? But didn't in so many ways. Like, does that mean we were ineffective or that our love did nothing? No, I think there's always a thread there and there's a filter there and there's a history there that will always inform the decision.
Absolutely.
But what happened in the middle of raising all of these kids was a realization that I was looking for their healing to validate me being a good mom.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's very powerful.
It was dysfunctional. Powerful and very dysfunctional. And I wish I could pray. I mean, I can pray this. I wish this over every person, but literally one day I woke up into a sense, I'm a good mom. And God had just removed all of the striving, and suddenly I didn't have to work for it. After all the years of striving and burning myself out, like I ended up even being diagnosed or treated for complex PTSD as a result of raising these children of trauma. Like that's how intense it can be. And I don't mean to scare anyone away. Read the books. No. There's lots of hope. There's but
no, compassion fatigue is real, and secondary trauma is real. Absolutely.
And if you're striving to have broken people prove your worth and validation, you're going to be working really, really hard for little to show. Yeah. So I just one day got to wake up into this space of like, Marcy, you are a good mom. Perfect moms are unrelatable. Right. Perfect moms don't need to ask forgiveness because they don't make mistakes. So they can't even model healthy reconciliation. But Marcy, you're a good mom because you do make mistakes and you pursue reconciliation and forgiveness and you pursue me, right? And all of a sudden, I shifted the dance in the relationship with my kids. I even pulled my daughter in and was like, oh my gosh, I'm a good mom. And anytime you want to access her, like she's right here. Come sit on my bed, hang out with me. But I'm gonna
so sweet.
I don't know if she thought so. She was like, what is wrong with you, right? You're, because their disorders, they both have diagnoses, and their disorders specifically cause them to fear and reject the very things that keep them safe.
Yes.
and pursue the things that are dangerous. And so a loving mother is terrifying.
Yes.
And so they would both work really hard to not like me because that's scary. And so here I am pouring, looking for my validation, looking for my worth, rejected because I'm terrifying and I represent all these scary things. My brains are wired to respond that way. And so when I could finally stop my part in the dance, then their like dysfunction didn't have to affect me in that way. And I
Right.
could genuinely love them for the first time. Really, right? Like,
Right.
without what I'm going to get out of it. So again, so dysfunctional, like, but there's that. The other thing, just real quick, that kind of struck me was I was at a women's retreat and someone talked about the story of Jesus in Gethsemane and being so distraught, right? Praying that God would remove this cup from him. And pointed out the verse where it says that God sent his ministering angels to strengthen Jesus. And then immediately after, he sweats blood, right? Like this medical anomaly of deep, intense stress. And the point was, he had just been strengthened and he still is stressed and he still has this path in front of him. And it just kind of shifted for me too, like, oh, just because things are hard doesn't mean that God's not showing up and strengthening me or being present for me or guiding me. It might still be hard, but man, what would it be if I weren't being strengthened? Right? Like, what would that look like? So there was a different sense of God's presence in it and his help in it also when I realized, wow, not even Jesus was spared like the hardest thing with the strength of God's ministering angels. So no less will I or will we in our parenting journey. We can't gauge it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have to make one quick I mean, that's so much. Like, that is such a gift, so rich, what you just shared. I mean, I think so much of our journey, you know, there's a saying in Spanish, and you probably know it, but the translation is that our children are lent to us, right? They're not ours. They're lent to us from God. And I always say that parenting is spiritual hazing. That it forces you to your knees on a daily basis, because as much as you think you know, you immediately are humbled and realize how little you do know. And a lot of your decisions are, unfortunately, but the truth of it, are made often in trial and error, right? Like, it's just putting out your best shot sometimes. And that is such a true spiritual journey. And I so relate to you as a mom and a sister in Christ, because I'll never forget the day. And not to say I don't struggle with this. This is ongoing. Like, this is not done at all for me. But I remember what you're talking about, that hunger almost for approval from your kids, right? Like, trying to justify your momness, right? Or that you are a good parent. And I remember Javi saying to me, I don't know, you may or may not remember this, but him saying to me, like, you need to stop. Like, he told me something like, you could stop everything you do today for them and still be a good mom. Okay. Like you don't have to do anything more. Okay. It's like, it's over. And I was all, oh, maybe
that's amazing.
Right. And so I was just like, oh, and I felt so released from this bondage of like debt, or you know what I'm talking about? Like that feeling of being, it's like this, you know, deprivation, or always feeling like I have to overcompensate. And so I so relate to you, because I think that's really powerful. And I think in our culture, because women, and for a whole bunch of reasons in our family structure and our society, and I think COVID brings it out more, we feel so compromised and spiritually deprived in many ways. And so we want to feel filled up, right, by our kids in ways that, you know, are just impossible, really. So I just commend you. Thank you so much for that. It's just awesome.
Yes. And one thing that I wanted to add that I was thinking is, you know, I hear some people say, that's a good kid, that's a bad kid.
Yeah.
And one thing that I realized as a parent and going through this spiritual parenting is, kids are reacting to they're behaving to adapt to that current situation. So if they don't know any better, they're going to do that, right? They're going to do whatever you think you label them. But it doesn't mean they're bad kids or good kids. It's just, they are reacting to adaptation of that specific moment. And you're like, okay, well, you know, and you need to step back and say, all right, they're doing that because in their previous experiences, they were doing that and able to survive or
Yes.
adapt to a situation. And
Yeah.
that's why you got to take a step back. So when I look at my kids, I'm like, okay, they're doing that because they're looking into the past and say, okay, what I that
Yes.
saved me. So I'm gonna do the same thing, right? It doesn't mean they're mean or horrible, selfish. Just
Yeah.
they're adapting to that. Another point, then you pointed it out, is I talk to a lot of men that want their child to become more into the faith, and they really impose, you gotta do this, you gotta watch this, we're gonna go to church and you gotta do the specific task. And I always tell them, what are you doing? Are you putting the armor of God with you? Are practicing your faith as a father for you first, instead of you are demanding a faith-based family, right? And I realized that I'm not gonna ask my child, let's do a Bible study group, if I'm not involved in one and I went through one myself, because or I'm not gonna tell my child, hey, you gotta do this when I am not doing it for myself. I'm not gonna tell my child, to really pay attention to some of the scripture where I don't follow the scripture. So it's like a reflection of yourself when you start realizing, hey, I need to really work in myself. And I think when you work on yourself, I think God is working through you, and you are giving God's love to these kids, is you feel so empowered to move forward with your mission. And it's funny, right? It's just as simple as accepting God's love to move forward, instead of demanding that you love God. And let me stay out of it because I need to work on myself, right?
Yeah. And to that point, like, I think a big turnaround for me, and I share this in the book a bit, is I had put a definition on love that I thought was God's definition. I mean, he died for us. Like, there's no greater love than that a man would die for his brother, right? So in my mind, like, all of my striving to help bring healing to them, all of my pouring was in that vein. Like, if it kills me, okay, yeah, I'm being medicated now,
Wow.
complex
Yeah.
PTSD, or, oh yeah, my other kids, they're not getting as much of me because I'm investing so much here. So the sacrifice of my other kids, the sacrifice of my marriage, the sacrifice of my mental health, like, that's unconditional love, right? Like, that's what Jesus would do. And I one day was questioning, like, God, I've given all the love. I've been the channel. Why aren't they healed?
Yeah. Hello. Didn't you get the memo, God?
I
Come
know.
on.
Like, what is the deal here? They are not doing the things that they should do when love has healed them. And I just heard him say, Marcy, you needed my death. That is why love was demonstrated through death for you. They don't need your death. They need your life, and they need your health. And it was like this huge, like, what? What? This is not, I don't have to die, and everybody around me doesn't have to die for the sake of the love here. And it gave me a chance to reframe love and begin to ask, okay, then what does it look like here? And sometimes it looks like a boundary. Sometimes it looks like saying, you've abused this aspect of the relationship, and so you don't have access to me in the same way that you did before.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it looks like generosity when they don't deserve it. Sometimes it looks like, no, you can't move into our house if you're not going to follow the rules.
Right.
It can look all sorts of ways, but it takes us being so prayerful and discerning and leaning into the Holy Spirit to know what is love here. Otherwise, with our Christian culture or our own sort of assigned meanings to things, we will get in the way and prolong the work that he's trying to do, right? So that was a huge epiphany for me that I try to carry into every relationship, but that shifted huge for me with these kids who were never going to validate my worth as a mom. They can't. They shouldn't.
No, they can't. No, you're right. No, it's an impossible ask. It's and it's not. Yeah, and that's so true. Like, I mean, that is just so huge, because I think so many people, so much of what I hear is like, and I share this, and I really empathize in terms of the wounded healer archetype, right? In terms of, so much, and faith really can inspire this, right? Because like you said, we're so moved by God's sacrifice, right? That we feel like, oh, suffering is part of the deal. Like, the more I'm punished or the more I suffer, the better I'm doing, right, God? Like, see, and it really backfires and sabotages us. But through that, like you've really gone through that and come out the other side and alchemized that, right? Relationship to this beautiful realization, because I realized that too, like even in my daughter's pre-adolescence or once getting really in adolescence, God is preparing us, right? It's like they are not babies and they are individuating, and we need to individuate too. Like, and God willing, we do individuate before becoming parents, but it's an ongoing process, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. A pastor told me the other day, "What kind of life do you want to live?" It's a Christian man, and he said, "Do you want wealth, like money, fame, or what are you looking for?" And I say, we're doing an exercise. He says, I think I'm gonna choose the path of learning and experiencing the path of following Jesus. They say, there you go. That's the most rewarding, because you don't know what's coming. But hey, you gotta follow Christ. But you're gonna learn so much, and you're gonna experience so much, and you're gonna touch so many people, and you're gonna be that vehicle. And sometimes you think you're not the vehicle, but you are, because you're gonna plant seeds. And I think that's the excitement of going into a journey like that in parenting, that you wish for a perfect child and successful and a leader and all that. But the more you are chasing that, the less you're in that path of following Christ, and say, okay, I just gotta love myself and love my neighbor and love this kid and just let God take care of that path for that child, right? It's very interesting when you let go, and also expecting, right? I don't expect anymore. Like, I kid around with my daughters. Oh, thanks a lot for giving me a goodnight kiss. I don't expect it anymore. Like, all right, you don't, because the more you expect your child to do things, they're not gonna do it. But at the same time, I know that if I'm with them, it's a good thing, right? If I'm showing my love, regardless if I get it back, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Wow, Marcy. Now I'm really up. Like, I'm really up for this. I hope we're not prolonging your bedtime, but I mean, this is so awesome. Wow.
It is. Just wanted to.
We want to promote your book and your website.
Well, we want to show your website. Let's see, right here. I had it right here. This is another gift that Marcy has. Is her love goes beyond the book that we talk about, spiritual parenting, but I think her love goes also in creating amazing children's book, and I think is a self-published author. Writing a book is not a piece of cake. It is.
Talk about a journey.
But I think writing a children's book is something you need to have a gift, and I think Marcy has that gift as well.
Aww.
So that's another. So I encourage everyone who is going to watch us and who is watching us live to. If you don't know Marcy, go to her site. Amazing.
And you get all the books, what she's done.
All the work that you have done. She's a great speaker. I know she's been in a TED Talk recently.
Yeah.
That is so cool, by the way. How was that experience, Marcy? Was it fun?
It was amazing. Like, if I just give you the briefest thing, I applied for a number of stages. This one came back to me. I revisited their theme, and I wanted to change my idea. I was going to talk about foster adopt things. But their theme was like, how do we empower children to develop into leaders that will lead their nations with integrity? And all of a sudden I had this brand new idea. So I wrote to them and I was like, hey, can I switch ideas? Like, they normally turn to the person in part because of their idea. So I was going out on a limb, but they let me. And it was 8 days before the event. Like, so I literally rewrote, or not even rewrote, I wrote a brand new message on an idea I'd never had. Wrote it, memorized it, presented it within 8 days. It felt like God downloaded it, and it made me realize how much I care about all the things I share. So I have another tip. Like I've got a few other stages interested in me, so I'll do a second one. I'll do my original talk, which also is just outlined. It's not written. But it was incredible. It was beyond what I expected. Yeah, it was amazing. So go watch it because
I gotta check it out.
Yeah,
I didn't even know until yesterday, so now I know. So I gotta go check it out.
I did check it out.
Oh, Javi, see, he did his homework.
I did my homework, and I followed Marcy, so it was really good. It was really good. And you know the I know it's kind of strange, right? Because TED Talks are right. You have the stage, and now, because of the pandemic, is online, but virtual, but it's still good. But I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. Just the message alone was really good.
You are such a powerful role model, Marcy, for letting God work through you. No doubt, man. Like, you're just such a mover and a shaker. I'm so inspired, really.
And an amazing coach.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much for spending time with us and talking about spiritual parenting, talking about your amazing book. And also, I know we're gonna touch couples out there that are super courageous, or they are courageous.
Yeah, props to all the foster parents on the planet, man.
God bless them.
Yeah,
and
high praise and
definitely.
blessings.
So thank you for being part of our family of Boundless Love.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
we really appreciate making the time and being with us. And we're doing double duty today, so we're back this evening.
Yes.
With the unit leader.
We're stalking our listeners, basically.
Yes, basically. You're gonna get a lot of us today. I'm gonna wear the same T-shirt, everyone.
Yeah, it's same day, 24-hour rule, right? Come on.
That's right. And also, I just want to tell the viewers, if you're watching this now, if you're watching this later, Boundless Love is a nonprofit ministry, and we really appreciate donations. There is a little button for $5 if you enjoyed this episode, if you got value out of it.
Or even $1. Hey.
Yes. And if you don't want to donate to us, that's fine. Just buy Marcy's book.
Yeah.
Go to her website and support her efforts. Just become a fan of her like we are.
And please share this talk and resource with other foster parents. I just really want to echo what Marcy said, that sometimes you got to dig a little bit deeper to find like those offbeat or like personal testimony, and so I really wanted to ask you all to lift this up and pass it, follow your heart. I'm sure God will place someone on your heart and share it with them, because I think we all need to support each other now more than ever.
Absolutely. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you.
Yes,
God bless
love you, Marcy.
And we'll be back this evening for another Cafecito for 2.
In approximately 8 hours.
8 hours. All right. God bless you. We love you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Love you guys.